What keeps you kind of fresh?
I think the fact that I would see a teddy bear that just was adorable, and heck, I'm a grandma, I can draw a teddy bear, but I can also draw those Vegas matchbooks, and I always like being challenged. I've been in advertising my whole life, and when you look at my work, it reflects that. Everyone says, oh, graphic design, why, that could be an ad, you know, or I like your Coke bottle. But I also love portraiture, and I was trained as a classical artist in the Rubens style of figure drawing and life drawing. So it keeps us fresh, and these new tools are great because you can go to Starbucks, get a cup of coffee, and do figure drawing right there, and no one knows you're doing it. It's a fabulous way to keep fresh.
That's, well, something that's just really important that we've discovered, especially with the artists that you have in the collection. Mm-hmm. The mere fact that you have everything from somebody who has been doing art as a hobby, mm-hmm. someone who couldn't come to Las Vegas because they have to launch a ship. You have traditional artists in the show. Right. Do you feel that this has kind of met your expectations?
It's exceeded it. And I've loved today because I've now met 7 of the 10 artists, and we've all been talking, and one of the things that I think is really inspiring us and keeping us moving is the fact that Autodesk itself and the guys that we're all working with are keeping updates coming too, so we don't get too complacent. Or we say, I'm really having a problem with that brush. If we could only make it a little different, or if we only had type, and then you give me type. And so it keeps evolving, which keeps us all fresh. The second we get 3 new brushes, we have to see how many ways we can make them work.
That is true about the freshness, because that's very paralleled in our lives, developing the product, because wouldn't have guessed 2 years ago that this would even be possible. And here we are today, talking about what the next generation of devices would be. So I think that almost sea change, or that epic shift in the industry is important, right? Because otherwise, things could improve, and they can improve indefinitely at a fixed margin. But this is something that's allowed, I think, not only you guys as creative artists and designers to explore new tools, but for us as an industry to leverage the new behaviors, the new ways people are communicating, to come up with new solutions.
All this new stuff has brought so many new things that are beyond my comprehension. The fact that I can actually email you and we can discuss things, and you can tell me why I'm wrong or why I'm right. Or
how about, do I?
Well, there's that. Anyway, but we also have, as artists, you're giving us responsibility to make our art the best it can be, because you are truly listening. And if you're giving us what we're asking for, if it's not turning out, then the onus is on us. So it's a wonderful collaboration. And with that collaboration, then you get unique loyalty that I have not seen in years, which is fabulous.
Yeah, and the loyalty really is something that's taken me by surprise. The mere fact that, people can be quite passionate about the apps they use or they don't use. And what's strange is they're passionate about something that's costing them either like the price of a lunch or a price of a coffee in some cases.
But there's also a great respect, and I've found this. I have now met so many fabulous artists, and some do not use the same software as I do, and I respect that because, first of all, I wouldn't want their art to look like mine. We don't need a bunch of Susans running around. Yeah. But I also respect, and I look deeper into their art saying, well, then how did they achieve that with that piece of software? And I also think it's very healthy and good to exchange and try other apps too, so that you know that you're the best marriage, you're in the best place.
You've also spent a lot of time with students. You've participated with high schools. Mm-hmm. And do you notice a difference in the attitude of young people with art because of technology? Or do you think that that's a constant?
I think it's a constant. I think you're born with this love for art, or I would hope we are. And so the seniors I'm seeing, I actually can think back to when I was a senior, and their excitement level is exactly the same. But what they have are incredible tools that we didn't have before. We made the best use of our crayons and our pastels and our gesso and our brushes, but now the arsenal is bigger. Now, everything, though, today is moving at 5 times the speed. We have much busier lives, and of course, everyone has to play soccer. So we have to fit that in as well. But the excitement is still there. What makes me thrilled as being an older person and having worked in advertising and come into computers and having to learn them because I had no choice, and loving them. And I love them, and I wish I would have had them in college. I think my life would have been totally different. So what excites me is seeing that these kids can actually have even better possibilities than I had. And the way they take it for granted, and they seem to instinctively know it, is just refreshing. Even out there today, people saying, "Oh, I can't do that," and then when we would take them to an iPad, and they were drawing, and they were treating it with respect, and the smile got really big on their face.
At this point, let's bring on another artist. We wanted to invite Deborah McMillion to talk with us. She's an artist. She's one of the contributing artists to the mobile art show that we're having here. Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
How are you?
Good.
Well, so what do you think so far?
Well, this is a very amazing venue. I mean, there are so many people, so many different backgrounds, so it's really very exciting seeing the response to fine art, on a computer.
We talked earlier a little bit in the gallery about the fact that this is a kind of a slightly different venue than probably what you've been used to. This is essentially a tech user group show, and we've constructed these white walls and created a museum-style gallery. What's that like with this type of audience for you?
It's white walls, it's art on the walls, it's people looking, and you still need to engage them to get them to understand. And you don't have to explain as much to this group.
Really? Is that what you found?
Well, certainly in a fine art gallery, if I was to show this work, you'd have to validate it in some way, because most people haven't gotten there in fine art galleries. I guess they're calling them archival pigment prints instead of, computer art, essentially, or digital art. If you use any of those terms, it's just a little...
It's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But we're close.
We're getting there. And presentation is a really big thing. The way you've presented them in this show is phenomenal. I mean, it really looks wonderful on the wall.
And I have to say, I mean, I was there during the setup, and I couldn't stop looking. And then I saw it up, and then I couldn't stop looking. It really is amazing to see so many pieces, and they feel so natural in the space, too.
Well, 10 pieces is really nice. It gives you enough variety for the artist to pick their work. I was going to go for a straight series, which is what you'd probably do in a fine art gallery. Yeah. But in a conference like this, you want to go for some variety. So yeah, this was different.
No, your work is definitely being appreciated. I can really tell you based on the faces I've seen. Can you tell us a little about your traditional work and maybe that cusp? But like, what has been happening to your work when you started adopting these new tools?
Well, I started with it basically because we were going on vacation to places where you'd always want to bring, like a watercolor set or something like that. But I'd never use them because, you don't want to get out all the little things, and it just was too messy. But everything was right there. All the colors, everything is compact in this one unit. So that really, for one thing, I just started doing art all the time. I mean, before it was like always in the studio, and then you're tired, and then you walk away, and, you go sit and watch TV or sit on the beach. But now it's like every little chance you get.
Every time you have an idea, you have your phone with you.
Or your iPad.
That's right.
And I think the biggest change is the fact that I don't have to paint around stuff. You draw a figure, you draw a background. I would always do back to front, back to front, back to front. But in this, it's layer to layer to layer, and I don't have to paint clouds around a figure anymore, so that's really great.
So digital was new to your workflow?
Yes.
So the whole aspect of layers was something, I mean, obviously you're using traditional media, so this really has all been new to you in the last just few years.
Well, a few months. I
Wow,
I was using a program not to be named
It's okay. All friends.
that had no layers. And actually, it was Susan that started saying, you really should try layers. But I wasn't used to using layers. I was just using
It was a foreign
one,
concept, right?
Yeah, the idea was just too strange. So when I started using it, it's like, what layer am I on? Where am I at? But now it's like 6 layers with so many, and wow, it's not anymore.
May I interrupt here? Because there's an interesting thing. I've been aware of Deborah's work for a long time, and I have an original oil of hers and that I'm very proud of, and it hangs in a hollowed spot in my studio. And I cannot tell the difference. She's been able to manipulate Sketchbook and make her work truly her own with no loss of quality at all.
And that's the amazing thing about walking through the gallery, which is why I feel like it's very mesmerizing. Everyone's pieces, you don't see a piece of software in front of it. You actually see the artist, you see their soul on some levels. And I think that's the part of it that's really important, right? Because it's about your work
Expression.
and your style and your
Expression.
piece,
Exactly.
your message.
Exactly right.
Let's have a quiet moment.
I have a tear.
What was it? The medium is the message. Now it's the software.
So what's happened to your traditional tools?
I sold them to a very dear friend who I knew would respect all my little side things, little glass palettes,
So you don't use the traditional
I
tools?
couldn't go back in there. I kept standing in my studio going, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't. And now that it's all emptied out, I can use it for my iPad.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about your feelings as you're evolving with this medium? What we did at the show here is we've printed them and we've presented them in a very traditional format as you would in another gallery, a fine art gallery. What are your thoughts on how or where you see this technology going?
Well, I think, like I said, presentation is a really critical thing to really make the jump to fine art galleries. And you really have to come up with a way that presents the work in the medium that it should be. And that's why I think I was telling you about fusing the art in glass.
That's right.
And backlighting,
Very cool.
which would kind of give the effect of the iPad, because you just have to have that light from the back.
And that's how you're seeing it when you create. Like you
Yes.
don't see it as a print
Or
that needs
flattened,
to reflect light.
no.
You actually are seeing illuminated.
So I'm really
pixels
anxious
coming
to
in.
try that because I think that would make a jump to the fine art world without having to represent it as, what is it, archival pigment prints.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for discussion here too, because I'm having an upcoming show, and I'm going to have to I want people to understand what it was to paint on an iPad, so I've had to buy a second one to hammer on the wall with movement that will have movement, and hopefully give them that backlit experience is huge.
Well, I can definitely say that it's been a complete honor meeting both of you. All the artists that you've brought here really represent a terrific story. It's inspiring, and I can't thank you guys enough for being part of the show. With that, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.